Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are going to have a conversation today with Dinalynn Rosenbush. And Dinalynn is one of the co-authors in the book I read, which launched on June 25th and is actually an international bestseller. Woo woo.
Number one bestseller.
Number one bestseller, that's right.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited. We're going to have a conversation today about the chapter that Dinalynn has written. And Dinalynn, I'm going to bring this over to you. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do in the world. And then I'd like to hear the title of your chapter.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show, and I appreciate this. This is fantastic. It's been so nice to be part of this book and to meet you in the process. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. So I am Dinalynn Rosenbush, and I am a speech pathologist of 30 years working in the schools. And then I decided I wanted to do something that I enjoyed along the way. And I wanted to focus on the parts that I enjoy, which is working with the people, teaching parents, teaching kids. And I wanted to let go of the things that I didn't so much enjoy, which was due process, paperwork, having a rigid schedule, sitting in a classroom a long time. So I thought I'm going to start a business that helps parents to learn how they can help their kiddos in the presence of a speech and language delay.
Mm.
Because what I found was that when parents are involved, kids make faster progress. So let's help those parents know how to drop nuggets of help right throughout their normal days. So that's what I'm doing now.
Nice.
And in that, I also have a podcast called The Language of Play, where I drop a lot of these tidbits and nuggets in.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so beautiful. That's
thank you.
beautiful. What is the name of your chapter?
Okay, so the name of my chapter is Did God Really Give You the Power to Heal Yourself?
Hmm.
And that chapter title comes from reading a book by Andrew Womack, and the book was The Power of Imagination. How it happened was that I was actually sick with Lyme disease. I had been bit by a tick, and that tick had made me extremely ill with the infections and co-infections that can come in a tick-borne illness.
Mm.
And in this time of illness, I read this book.
Okay.
And when I came across a phrase that was, you, your life is exactly as you imagined it to be,
Mm.
I slammed the book shut and said, no, it isn't, out loud. and and I thought, whew, that was a big response. And eventually opened up the book and thought maybe I misread that. And when I read it, it still said, your life is exactly as you imagined it to be. And I took the book and I threw it across the room. No, it isn't. Because, of course, I was sick and in bed, and I was not living as I had imagined my life to be. So then I needed to do this transformation of why does he say that? And what if there's a nugget of truth in that? And then I started thinking, okay, I'm going to read more of the book to figure out what really is he talking about, because
Okay.
clearly he's wrong. And through the process of reading that book, I started to understand how we can wish for things, long for things that we don't necessarily realize that that's what we're doing. We
Hmm.
can sometimes we we have an underlying want, an underlying wish that we're, or things that we're spooling on that we
Right.
don't really want to spool on. So anyway, through the process, that's what I realized about myself in that book. And the process that got me there was to acknowledge, what happens if I listen through my lens at
Hmm.
what he's saying and allow myself to consider, what if it's true? Just allow myself to consider, what if it's true? And I ultimately became aware of more of my own thoughts, and and I decided I need to change those thoughts.
That's, I love this. I absolutely love this. This is very aligned with the kinds of things that I do myself. I'm a self-awareness coach for women in midlife. and I work with a lot of high achieving women. And I totally agree with you. I love that you threw the book across the room because your mind said, "What are you talking about?"
Mhm.
And then you opened yourself up for curiosity,
Mhm.
and that's so beautiful. So I can see why you would choose a book like this to write about, and especially when you consider that um, not only is it your thoughts, but these like beliefs that you don't really know that you adhere to.
Right, right. The awareness of suddenly
Yeah.
realizing that's what I think. I don't want to
Mhm.
be thinking that. I don't actually think that, but somewhere deep inside of me, there's a belief
Right.
that was really hard to pull out
Mhm.
and change, yet I knew I wanted to because I didn't. It's a weird thing to realize that you believe something that you don't want to believe and you don't actually kind of like believe in your head, but part of your body feels like it believes it.
Right. Were you
And
being trained to believe it, right?
well, that was a
In some
lot of
ways.
what it was
Yeah.
because this book has a very strong religious undertone. It's he talks about the Bible and what God says,
Hmm.
and I was very much raised that we plead with God for health and wellness. We plead with God to get better,
Hmm. Hmm.
and and then he's saying no, it's done. You
Yeah.
receive what's done.
Right. Right.
And then, therefore, you do have the power to heal yourself. Start thanking God that it is done.
Mm.
And so it was kind of amazing.
Yeah. That. I
And of
mean,
course, it wasn't that it was just belief. It was a lot of action as well. You know, how am I going
yes.
to go through the process of healing? And the journey was years long. It wasn't short
Sure.
because if you know about Lyme disease, it is a profound illness.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you so would you say that this book has put you on the path to healing?
Oh, absolutely. And what it ended up doing right at the same time as I read this book, I
Mhm.
had realized that I was dying and I decided that I was going to stop the antibiotic treatment because I was so sick from it.
Mm,
And then I thought, okay, so at least I'll just die more comfortably and enjoy my kids in the process, like because I won't be incredibly nauseated.
yeah. Yeah.
And then along that same time, I thought, why not try Eastern medicine? Because I realized that
Mhm.
Eastern medicine says you don't have to live with this. You can get
Right.
better from it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I pursued the Eastern medicine route after a bunch of antibiotics, and that was a lot of healing my body from many things. And yeah, and I'm claiming it to be done. I, I know that there's damage
Hmm.
because, you have stuff like that and you get damage in your body
Right.
and it's neurologic. But I also notice that I continue to get better and it's years out now and I continue to make gains. And so I do think that it's healed and
Yeah.
now it's a matter of continuing to heal the damage that was done by it.
Right.
Yeah,
It your vision, commitment, intention, belief around all of that makes it so.
right.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's wonderful. So tell me, what was it that drew you to the book I read and inspired you to tell this story?
Oh, that's kind of funny. I had gone to a friend of mine who's a chiropractor and he hands this book to me and he says, "Read it." And then 3 months later, I opened it up. I just brought it home and kinda looked at
Yeah.
it and thought, "Whatever." And a few months later, I thought, I'm just laying here in bed. Here's this book still sitting near me,
Yeah,
it's like I suddenly noticed it. There really isn't
that's
anything
nice.
from within me that compelled me to go read it. It was just that he knew what I didn't know, I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
And was that the book, The Power of Imagination?
Yes, The Power
Okay.
of Imagination. He handed that to
Okay.
me and just said, "Read it."
Okay. And then all of
That
a
was
sudden,
it.
a few months later, you're just,
Months later, yeah, I opened it
yeah,
up.
you're like,
Mhm.
what is this?
Exactly, exactly. It wasn't anything like rainbows coming down from heaven in the bookstore. It was nothing tra la la la,
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. It was just this simple boredom being in bed
Mm-hmm.
and noticing the book that had been given to me with that little message, read it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love that. Well, what made you want to write a chapter in a book? What was it that inspired you to writing, to become
I've always
a
yeah.
co-author? Yeah.
Okay, so I've enjoyed writing in the
Mhm.
past, and I've often wanted to write my own book. And then I've had the opportunity to co-author other books. And
Okay.
so this is the fifth chapter that I've co-authored, or fifth book that I've co-authored in. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, it's very fun to be part of an anthology where
Mm.
you have lots of people put forth their work and then together you launch it. So it's a very fun experience. And then when I heard what the title was, immediately I thought, that's the book.
Oh, I
But
love that. Yes, go
yeah,
on.
yeah. And in the meantime, I've thought, oh, I could do this same book, like the book I read,
Yeah.
contribute to this book
Yes.
and this one and this one and this one and then, like other books that I've read. So yeah, I don't know, that one just hit me, but there are many other books. And I think too that when you read a book like The Power of Imagination, I realize there's a lot of books that I have been reading over time that deal with various aspects of how your mind has power and how
Yes.
it has been given to you to use for good and for all the gifts that we have been given by God. And so I think a lot of it weaves together. And when I read another book with the knowledge I have from this book inside of me,
Hmm.
then the next book makes more sense. And then I read the book after that with the knowledge of these two books, and that next book, it makes more sense. So I think it's this spiral of weaving together our knowledge that
Hmm.
builds on itself. So someday I'm going to go back and reread that book.
Right.
and and then I wonder how much more I'll understand.
That's a really good point. I've had that same experience, and that's what I write about as well, is something that I've continued to use over and over. And what I love about that is that when the next time you do pick it up, you're going to interpret it completely different, even the parts that you understood, because you're no longer the Dinalynn that opened that book up hanging out in her bedroom,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that just
And
sort
well,
of,
and truth be told,
yeah.
before I wrote this chapter,
Mhm.
I had a different quote in my head, and I thought I want to make sure that I know what page it's on. Like I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that the quote as I remembered it is the quote. And
Yeah.
so I did reread the book. That quote was not exactly as I remembered
You
it.
remembered it. Yes.
And yeah, so I have reread it, and the second time I read it, it was different. It made a lot different sense to me.
Mm.
And so when I again reread it, in
Another
some years,
time. Yeah.
another time,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fascinating.
I love that. It helps you kind of like it gives you like a personal marker of the growth that you've made. Like you can
Yes.
recognize where you interpreted something that's just a little bit different than what you interpret now. And
Right.
and it shows you your movement,
Mhm.
which is beautiful. I love that journey that it can take you on, and books are just so powerful that way. So what would you say is one of the most standout portions of the book that you felt really sparked the biggest impact for you?
Ah, that is a really good question. There were multiple places, but I think that one of them was when I read Andrew Womack's example of a woman who had cancer, and she was trying to figure out all these things about cancer so that she could get better, and her mind was on like learning about cancer.
Mm.
And that makes sense in our world. This is how I thought too. And I had been deeply studying what's going on with Lyme. What do people do to help it? And then he said in this line, you don't need to know everything there is about cancer. You need to know everything there is about healing. And in that moment, I knew I don't need to focus on Lyme. I
Yeah,
need to focus on my healing. And so it was that transition that helped me to say, okay, I'm done with some of these other medications that are making me so sick,
yeah.
and I'm done focusing on learning everything that there is about Lyme. And I'm going to focus on what body structures need to get stronger. What do I need to do for my sleep, for my digestion, for my respiration, for my, like all the different things we have to deal with,
Yes.
clean water, clean food. What kind of food helps in this different situation? Like if I'm dealing with my stomach lining, I'm going to eat different foods than if I'm dealing with skin issues.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
like there's just
Right.
there if you're thinking about your energy or you're thinking about your sleep or like to layer and to pick what it is that I want to focus on and to be able to listen. What do I think my body is ready to focus on? And then, of course, the Eastern medicine, they guided me a lot in that.
So it sounds like from not only the experience of having Lyme disease,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And reading this book, you got really in touch with your body in a whole different way that you didn't before. Would that be accurate?
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so. I
Yeah.
think that, like, I've been on a, I think I lived my life on a path that was do, do, do. I got married at 22 and then I had children by 25 and in the middle of there I finished college and got my first jobs. And then I was home with my kids and then I got divorced and then it was survival mode for a number of years, like 13 years while I was working as a teacher and if you know teachers don't make a lot of money. And so I was raising a family as a single mom for a long time and like I stayed in this zone of survival and just do
Right.
for a long period of time. And I think I never really gave thought to what's really going on in my body. And then I realized even long into adulthood that I don't even really recognize hunger a lot of times.
Mm.
And I realized that if I don't even recognize my own hunger signals until I get crabby, because my kids say to me, Mom, have you eaten? And I
I
realize,
recognize the cue.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So if I can't even recognize that cue, um,
Yeah.
clearly I have dismissed my body's messages to me.
Right.
And yeah, so learning to take care of myself and to
Yes.
listen has been a job. So,
Yeah.
but it's been a good work.
Yes, I mean, that's such a big impact because I think that, for women, that journey is so true for so many of us, especially when we've been single parents.
Hmm.
You don't really have time to think about what your needs are most of the
Right.
time
Yeah.
because you are in survival mode and you are just so busy doing. And so I love that storyline and the impact that it's had on you. What would be the one thing that you would say you would like people to walk away from after reading your chapter? What would you like them to receive from what you've written?
That people have, and that's a good question. It really is, because I think that just to highlight this idea
Yeah.
that when people walk away from a book, to pause
Mhm.
and to think, what have I learned? And
Mhm.
to integrate what it is that you've learned
Yeah.
is super important. With this book, what I would hope people would walk away with is really understanding that there, like the title, there is power in your imagination. And when we start to noodle on things that we imagine,
Mhm.
the spooling that can go on in your
Yes.
mind if you're
Yes.
angry or if you're uh, like dismissive or frustrated or jealous or like all the normal human emotions, whatever it is,
Hmm.
if you allow yourself to spool on those emotions, those things become more real inside your brain.
Yeah.
Not that they're not real, but just that you go around the block more and more and more and more, so it becomes more
Right.
solid.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so the things that we choose, and we do have power of choice in what it is that our brain is going to cycle on,
Yes.
to choose things that are fortifying for yourself, that fortify your heart, your emotions, your mind, things that build you up, things that take care of you, things that are nourishing and strengthening.
Yeah.
And so if we can spool on those kind of thoughts, like dreams, like daydreaming,
Yes. Yeah.
on the real positive part of what you actually want
Hmm.
versus thinking about the problem as if it's going to get better when you think about the problem, Because sometimes we like this would have been my pattern to think about the problem until waiting for the solution to come. But the fact is that when you think about the problem, and we all have lots, when we
Yes,
think
of
about the
course.
problem, it
Uh-huh.
becomes stronger.
Right.
It gets really
You're
reenacting.
feeding
But
it.
if we
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
so we if we can, or not if we can, when we switch our
Mhm.
idea to spool
Mhm.
on the solutions
Yes.
rather than the problem,
Yeah.
we we end up creating for ourselves a different way of thinking. And then your brain starts to move towards the solutions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So that's your overall message to others, right?
Yeah, spool on the solutions.
Yes,
Or
and
let
not
yourself
problem.
spool. Go ahead, but not on the problem. Spool on the solution.
Yes. In the past, I just want to share this with you because it's very relevant to what you're saying, is in the past, I used to, when I was younger, think that I had to worry about something to get the better outcome.
Hmm.
And if I didn't worry about it, then doom was, inevitable.
Or you don't care.
Right, exactly. And so I think that is, I don't think I'm the only woman who does that or who has done
No,
that. I think
I think
many of
all
us
men and
do.
women do
Yes,
that.
exactly. And I heard someone say once that when you worry like that, that worrying is almost like praying for it.
Ah, that's
It
interesting.
is like praying for it because that's what you're fixated on. And so it's the energy that you're driving your decisions with, this worry.
Right.
So anyways, I love that. I love that what you said is to inspire others to focus on what it is, the outcome that they are um, creating to receive rather than the outcome of the problem.
Mm-hmm. In
So
this process, one of
mhm,
the things was meditation.
yes.
And what I learned, not from this author, but from somebody else, was that worry is actually meditating on the problem.
Mm.
And when I heard that, I thought, oh, I guess I do know how to meditate.
That's
And so, yeah. So if you are a worrier, you do know how to meditate and you meditate very well. Just
that's
shift the topic
fantastic.
of your thoughts.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so good. That's such a great way to explain that to in a broad stroke of like,
Isn't
everyone
it?
can understand that. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's no excuses, y'all. You can meditate.
Yeah. If you can spool on a topic,
Right.
if you can worry,
Yeah,
if you can stay bitter or angry or any of those things, you know well how to meditate.
that's
You
right.
just have to choose a different topic, a,
Yes, and
a
you can
solution instead
focus.
of,
Yes.
yeah, a different focus. Right, right.
I love that. Well, Dinalynn, I'm so excited that your book and your chapter is in the
Yes.
world in the
Thank you.
book I read. And it's been an honor to talk to you today. And I'm so excited for all of us as co-authors that this book is out in the world and we have a mission to inspire others by telling our stories about the books that we've read. And what a great list of books that we are providing the world to, put on their list to read themselves. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you would like to say or put
I
out
want to
into the
congratulate
audience?
you for being a #1 international best-selling author now too.
So nice.
Yes. And thank you for doing this work in the world to highlight, these stories by many people because everybody has a story.
Yes.
Whether we think we have a story that is suitable for a book or not, we
Mhm.
do. We just may not view it that way yet.
Yeah, it's
So we
true.
can all learn from each other.
Yeah, I
I
love
am still learning lots.
yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, Josette. I appreciate it.
Okay, everyone. Well, we will put the links for where you can get the book I read, and we will see you next time. All right, take care, everyone.